Hey everybody, how's it going? Bear here, bringing you another Six Siege board game team composition video. Um, this is not an operator spotlight list like my last two have been, but I've got the blindfold up because I was super excited about this particular video. This wasn't the normal one that I was going to put out, but I had like a burst of inspiration that let me build a list that I felt a lot more comfortable about releasing rather than putting out a list that I just didn't feel super comfortable with, or at least feel like I had the knowledge to or info to give out of like why I think it would be good and things like that. So, but I think that you all are really going to love this list. I had fun like making it and then just figuring things out. Again, it was a burst of inspiration, but I mean this list is absolutely stunning and it's pretty flashtastic. So, boom. Stunning defenders. That's what we got this time. Not the attackers. We're focused on the defenders. Again, this was a super fun list that I got to build the past couple days. So, um, yeah, as you can see, we've got Clash, Echo, Ella, and Aruni. These are our four stunning operators. We do have one more hidden away. We'll get to that in just a bit. Um, but yeah, so Clash, you all have seen her before. She's super good. Shielded operator, heavyweight, gets multiple sources of protection. She gets -4 hits instead of the usual -3. That does make her really good if you are using her as your hatch bully, which I highly recommend doing. I've been able to get pretty accustomed to that myself. And then her ability, you can stun a single operator in a room. Unfortunately, not the entire room, but they will also potentially take damage. And then up next, we've got Echo, yet another heavy defender. But he has a drone, so he lets you locate, but his drone will also stun, which can help. That kind of just helps like the rest of your team comp because if you are moving in for a kill, whether you're trying to wallbang or not, you're gonna take less damage anyways because they're only rolling 2 yellow die. Um, but he also fits in a mid to long range play style, which I do really like. I know most of the defenders are focused on kind of close to medium range. So it is nice to have that extra layer to your gameplay while you are playing. And then I will say too that I think playing operators at 7+ range for your engagements, it's not easy, but I do think that it can make players better whenever they're thinking about like their positioning and angles that they wish to engage into. Um, and then our other two operators, we have Ella and Aruni, both trappers. So Ella, she can react to opposing operators if they enter an entryway space from their upper floor area. So they have to already be upstairs, and then they have to come downstairs for her to react. But she can also react if they are crossing a room perimeter. And a room perimeter, it can be a window, it can be a doorway, but it can also be breaches. So it's really nice just with her whole ability kit. She actually covers all bases. She covers doors, she covers windows, she covers entryway spaces if they are already upstairs, and then she can also cover uh, the breaches as well. So they can choose to ignore it, unfortunately, but she also has three reactions instead of two, like most of them have. So that's at least kind of nice. She does have really good short range. Again, if you're getting a stun off with either Clash or Echo, right? She can potentially not take either any damage or as much damage if you are able to move through um, appropriately, and if you do have the cover. And then our last stunner is Aruni. I just recently made my operator spotlight video on her, which I thought was like a huge success, especially that team comp. But so yeah, for Rooney, her ability, she can react if the opposing player is moving into an objective room. through either a door or a window. So her and Ella, I do feel that they have a really good synergy when using their abilities. Not just because like they're both trappers, but just with how they work. It's the fact that a Rooney can block the doors and the windows, but then Ella can also follow it up and help get the entryway spaces as well as breaches. Aruni also another long range operator. Um, you've got Echo who can help support with wall bangs if you are able to locate somebody, and then you can just have Aruni wall bang them from really long range. She also has the orange destructibility, which is nice. We don't have a whole lot of that in this, so that might kind of affect the other tactical inventory gadgets that you bring. Um, but what else? I guess you could also go before I move on. Clash because she does get those. She does get that extra protection for from multiple sources. If she does have heavy cover and you are trying to engage against a stun attacker, you're actually not going to take any damage at all because the highest they could roll is 4, and you can potentially have 4 hits. So that makes her really good. And then for the 5th operator that we have, he's actually very similar to Clash. Definitely in a different way though. So we can reveal that our last operator is Vigil. Bet you didn't see that coming. Bet you didn't see this whole list coming. So again, this was a super fun one to come up with. So we've got Vigil. He's rounding out the roster for this for us. So Vigil never receives a ping or locate, so he can't be droned out. When he gets shot at, he doesn't receive anything. He can't get anything from anyone else's abilities, like specifically Dokkaebi is coming to mind. If you do still have his hidden tokens available, and if the room that either he or his decoy token are in, if that room gets droned, you don't even have to flip him, right? He basically just gets to stay invisible until the attackers get like an actual line of sight visual. And then the second part of his ability, which both of these are passive, which is super nice, is that if he's targeted by a shot, the shooter has to remove any 1 die before rolling their hit die. So that's really good. And I'll kind of break that down. So any engagement with Vigil, if the opposing operator is shooting at him with only 2 die, not 3 die where 1's a cover, but like specifically just 2 die, he will never take damage. But you do have to have heavy protection to gain that, because even if the attacker is rolling 2 red die, well, they're going to have to get rid of one of the red die per his ability, but then the other red die can't roll above 3, and if you have heavy protection, you're never going to take damage. But then also, in the event that you're going up against somebody who has 3 die for their engagement, the absolute best 3 die combination that an operator can have is 1 orange die and 2 red die. In that case, Vigil can never be one shot. So if you are picking your engagements carefully, and I do think that is kind of what Vigil is based around, either you will never take damage or you will never be one shot. And you won't be one shot because if you're going up against an orange and 2 red die roll, obviously the attacker is going to get rid of their orange die. They're going to take away the die that rolls the least amount of damage. Again, this is assuming you have heavy cover. Well, you're going to have heavy cover, so you can essentially just take out one of the die, and then the last die rolled is just how much damage that he would take, which could only be 3. He has 4 health. Therefore, he can't be one shot. Don't remember if I mentioned it before, but Clash is a really good hatch bully. Use her upstairs to either take over hatches or to protect them if you're trying to cover another operator's back, because she will always get the -4 hits. But Vigil actually serves the same purpose for a lot of the reasons that I just mentioned specifically for him, is that if you're going up against an operator who has only 2 die for their short range, if you are trying to either hold or control or contest a entryway space, he's never going to take damage. You're just going to get to dish out free damage. But even if you're going up against an operator who has just 3 die in their close range, he's never going to die. So you at least get to protect it for one exchange of fire, and then you can do whatever else after that. Um, but then also just in combination with playing against a stunned operator, the same thing applies to the 2 die. But on top of that, they're going to be rolling 2 yellow, so the odds of you taking any damage is almost 0% chance. Uh, and then last thing to add to that, you can if you are going up against a stunned operator, then you no longer need the heavy cover to survive hits. You just need light cover. So there would be some maps where the entryway space, you could drop down from an entryway space behind a table, and then you would be totally fine because they can't do any damage to you anyways, which potentially could allow you to get better positioning to get the one shot or a significant amount of damage on your operator. But yeah, so this is my list. I do know that there is a lack of Bandit and potentially Cade, if that is 2 operators that you might have been expecting to use. However, they did not make the list, but they did make the alternative picks, and we will go over those as well. So yeah, these are all of my alternative picks. Um, so Bandit and Cade, I specifically didn't go with them because their abilities are set up, which means it's kind of predetermined as to what you're going to do. And I liked Clash and Echo because it gives you more versatility on using your ability, right? You can use it when you want, you can use it how you want. For Bandit and Cade, it's more of like you can they allow you to protect a certain area. So if you are someone who is always worried about entryway spaces, you could easily toss them in. I can totally see a world where you take out Ela and Aruni if you're not good with traps, put in Bandit and Cade, and then you also have the Clash and the Vigil, and you're watching basically every entryway space on the map, which could be very good. And again, both of their abilities do exactly the same thing, where essentially if their gadget is interacted with, the active operator who made the interaction will receive a stun, and they will also take a damage. So you just get in slight amount of damage. Then next we've got our Legion Goyo Melusi kind of package or deal. Not really. I kind of just have these separated because these operators serve the same purpose to me. But specifically, the Legion, Goyo, and Melusi, that fits into the kind of the trapper role. Again, like I've said before, if you're running trappers, it's always better to run a lot of them because then you've got multiple instances in which you can use the reactions in combination with each other, things like that. Legion, him and Ela actually have a good combination with entryway spaces specifically, where if an operator, per Ela's ability, if the operator's upstairs and then they drop down, if they drop down onto a gray entryway space, well, then you can react with both of them. Most of the time, though, they will probably ignore the Ela reaction, but they'll take the Legion just because, most likely they're trying to get a flank on one of your other operators. So they will potentially take the ping and the damage more than taking the stun. And then one thing that I would like to point out with Ela, because Legion specifically only affects gray entryway spaces, Ela's card does not read the same. It just says an opposing operator entering an entryway space from the upper floor area. So you can actually use Ela's reaction to attacking operators who are using the attacking entryway spaces, usually placed on the perimeter of the map. Right? Those are the ones that the defenders can't actually use, but her ability allows you to react if that is used, if they are dropping down, which still helps with trying to break up potential flanks from other operators. Then we've got Goyo. I'm never not going to include Goyo. Goyo is my absolute favorite defender that we have. He brings so much to the table. Extra deployable shields. He's got orange destruction. His reaction is the only one that can't be ignored by the attackers. And then, you use his ability kind of like Claymores. So bringing him, he himself helps support both Clash and Vigil. For Clash, it gives her more opportunity to have multiple sources of protection on the main floor, where she can benefit from her -4 hits, and then same for Vigil. That is where I mentioned if he is going up against a stunned operator, as long as he is moving and he has cover with every movement, then you're never going to do damage with him. So you could potentially place some shields in a nice manner that just lets Vigil like basically move through a room and never take any damage. Um, and then Melusi, she's not a trapper, but she can help with putting up her gadget in flank locations. So like if you don't want to watch your flanks, you can just put her there. She's got a really good gun as well as the orange destruction. You can never have enough orange destruction. It's always really good. Um, but you can also kind of combine her with the Ela. So if you are worried, which goes back to kind of her watching flanks, but you could just put her Banshee in a room with a gray entryway space that maybe you can bait with it if you wanted the attacking operator, to drop down and try and get a flank on you. Hopefully you've got a decoy positioned properly, things like that. Um, but yeah, just something else to kind of give you a little bit of like area control. Maybe put it in a room that you want to hold, but you don't want them to hold, that kind of thing. And then these last three operators. These are very unconventional picks, but I have reasons for all of them. So we will first start off with Doc. As I mentioned before, Clash and Vigil are both of your hatch bullies, right? So if you are trying to take over entryway spaces, or if you are trying to hold the entryway spaces from the attackers, eventually they are going to start taking damage. If you have Doc with your team, you can basically keep that going on for almost the entire game. At least half of the game can you sustain that sort of play style, in my opinion, right? Because you just keep healing them as they go. Um, you could even do a similar play style where if you do want to be aggressive with a Vigil, you can do that, and then if you move Vigil, you just move him down onto either an Overwatched or a neutral entryway, a friendly Overwatch or a neutral entryway space. And then if you have Doc upstairs, you can actually use Doc's healing ability on the Vigil while Doc is upstairs and Vigil is on the main floor. And then if you have to, you've got Clash to follow up with the overwatching the entryway space, just so that Vigil doesn't get shot from the upper floor. So that's a neat little trick that you can do. Next up, we have Rook. Rook just basically gives you extra health. He gives operator your lightweights and your middleweights extra, like, 1 health. So in the instance of Vigil, if you are playing aggressive with him, remember he can never be one shot, but he can at least go down to 1 health. If you have Rook, he'll be at 2 health, and that could make a big difference, especially if you are playing with the stun mechanic. They, you might have they might have a little bit harder of a time finally finishing off Vigil. But I do not recommend bringing in Rook with a lot of other heavies, because his setup only works on 4 health and 5 health operators. So it's good if you can use all three of your armor plates. It's all right if you can use two, and if you can only use one, there's just no point in bringing him. And then lastly, we've got Thunderbird, who with her Kona stations that basically reduce damage by 1 for any operator that is in the room with the Kona station. So the thought behind her is that you can actually If there's an easy room to take over with your flashes, specifically from like Clash or Echo, you can put up one or maybe even two Kona stations within that room. Yes, the attacker is going to benefit from that Kona station, but what it allows you to do is it kind of baits the attacker into taking over that room. Then they think that they can control it. Well, then you just follow up with a flash from Clash or a flash from Echo, and then that can allow you to drop down with the Clash or even the Vigil to start getting kills. But also, if they are being riposted against, your Clash or your Vigil or anyone else who is trying to push into that room, they will also benefit from the Kona station. So it can make gunfights take longer, but it could be a very good bait tactic, especially if you put the Kona station in a position where maybe one of your other operators can see it from a completely different room, and then that can allow you to destroy it at a specific time while the attacker is stunned, and then you can move in, and they won't benefit from any of the Kona stations or things like that. So, um, guys, this was a little bit more of a longer video, but I had a lot to say about it. Again, it was a super fun list that I got to work with. So let me know what you all think. Do you hate it? Do you love it? Or do you really love it? Um, if there's anything different that you all would do, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe the video and for my YouTube channel as well. Um, and then yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for hanging out.